look back at the last lesson and what are some of the things that you remember? I just want to do a quick little review. So what are some of the things that stand out? Because it's important we go to our kind of and think back. What do you remember? Put it in the chat. And there's a question from Machati, and I'm going to unmute you to, if I can. Okay, I don't know if it's, I think we haven't put the mute all button yet, but flow diagram was one of the things we did last time. What else? So input and output pairs, or input and output values. Yes. What else? Anything else that you remember from last time? So remember the input output pairs, they looked a bit like a machine, like something would go in the one side and then it would come out the other side different. So maybe we would have something like 3 times 2 plus 4 is the rule, and then that would come out the other side as a 10. And what was the last other thing that we did? Can you remember? We had to finish something, but we didn't have time. You're quite correct. And we're going to go back to that question now. We also had a rule or a formula that we tried to use to describe our input-output pairs. And we often wrote it y equals, for example, here, oh, this is important. We said that the input, we often call the input x, and we call the output y. Okay, so that was something. And then we tried to write down formulas that describe this rule. And we're going to go back to that today. But I just thought it would be good to remind you, yes, Ursula. So in this rule, the only difference is it wouldn't be 4x minus 2, it would be 2x minus 4. But I will get to that in a moment. So this is just a quick little remembering what happened last time for those who maybe were away. Formula, putting the sum in words. Yes, perfect. Okay, so let's go. I think you guys are good. So in the last lesson, I call this this tab carryover because I'm carrying it over from the last lesson. In the last lesson, you were doing this question. And the input-output pairs weren't in the form of a flow diagram. They were in the form of a table where the inputs were on the top over here. And you had to work out what was the output that came, but it came from using this rule. And so I want to start by just reminding you, how do we use this rule? Well, if the rule is y equals minus 2x plus 1, what we do is we write the rule with a space for where the x is. And the input, which is the x value, is going to go into the rule. So in this case, because I'm starting with minus 3, that's the value that is going into the rule. Now, what is a little bit tricky is that I need to calculate the y value, which is the output, and that requires me to multiply minus 2 by minus 3. And a lot of students get caught by this because a negative times a negative, this is going to be plus 6. But then I've got the plus 1 here, and so I get 7. And so the output that goes with the input of minus 3 is going to be 7. Now, when I have to repeat this process, the next time, I don't have to do all the working again. I can actually just do this. I can say, what's the next thing that's going to go into the machine? It's going to be minus 2. And minus 2 times minus 2 is going to be plus 4. And 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. So we get that. What I would like you guys to do now for me is I would like you to basically fill out these remaining values. And so I will give you 2 minutes or so to do that. And we're filling out those missing values. And again, once you're done and you feel comfortable, then you can put it in the chat. I don't want you to feel too rushed because I know a lot of students were feeling a bit rushed. We're trying to do too much in the last lesson. But yeah, once you've finished, I can also get some participation from the class. Okay, so over to you guys. We're going to keep quiet for 2 minutes. And once you're done, put the answers in the chat. Please zoom in. I can zoom in a little bit. How's that? Yolanda, can you see okay?
Yes, on my side it's okay. It's perfect. I can see it.
Okay. Cool. Pleasure, Shanice. I'm glad I could help. Okay, Mukhlago, that is looking good for the first one. What you can do is, I would say, a lot of students are saying that this one is 3. So you're right. And what I'm going to suggest is you just wait until once you've done the whole list, right? So you're going to try and get all these values. And once you've got all of them, you just pop those in the chat. Oh, there's our iPhone 2. He's come back, but he's not in drama class. Okay. Okay. If we could please hit the mute all button. Thank you. Okay. Take this away for a second. So we've done these 2, and we've got that. Let's see, are you laughing? Okay, let's have a look. So I see some answers coming through. I want to give a little bit more time. Yeah, iPhone 2 needs to watch himself or herself. Okay. So it gets a bit interesting here. Now, I'm wondering if some of you, I think a lot of you will see that this is probably going to be 1, and some of you might even do that without without thinking. You might just be going like, but you're correct. If you put 0 in here, -2 times 0 is nothing, and so the only thing you're left with is 1. And one of the sneaky things is, because it's going up by 1s, I've actually noticed something, guys. And I think you may have noticed it too. -7. So I'd love for someone to raise their hand and just tell me, what have you noticed when doing this? Did you have to work out every one individually, or did you notice a pattern when you were doing it? And so Shanice, I'm going to come to you, and if you could maybe give us a little bit of insight into your thinking. Hi, Shanice. You should be unmuted. Go ahead.
So, sir, as you can see, so we are adding 1 the whole time. So
Okay.
from -3, we were adding 1, but from the 0, we were adding 1, but in negatives.
Aha. I agree with you. There's a +1 in the formula, but when I was jumping ahead like this, when I was going from one thing to the next, I didn't find myself adding 1. So I'm just going to ask if another student maybe has a different point of view. So who else? Rene Liwe. I'm sorry if I didn't say your name right. Maybe if you have maybe some insight you want to share. How did you?
Janice.
Cool. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I noticed that we are subtracting by 2.
Yeah. So you noticed we were subtracting by 2 or going down by 2. Hey. So what were your last 2 numbers?
Yes. It's -9 and -11.
Okay. Now, what if I was sneaky? If I extended my table and the next thing wasn't a 6, it is a 9. Would you know how to know what 9, what would match with 9? I'm being sneaky because I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe you could just like, what do you think it is going to be? And I mean, I'm deliberately making this sneaky, so don't worry if you get it wrong or right. It's more the thinking that I'm most interested in.
It's -17.
Okay, how did you know how to do that? What were you thinking?
I used the formula.
Well done. Yes, you used the rule, because why I was sneaky is I went up, I wasn't going up in ones anymore. I went up by 3, and I wanted to see if you said negative 13, because negative 13 wouldn't have been correct. And so what you needed to do was you put the 9 in the formula, you get negative 18 plus 1, which is negative 17. And so for students out there, I just wanted to show you, even though you can generate the table by taking away 2 each time, if the input jumps up by more than 1, then you need to go back to the original rule. There was something else I was hoping somebody might have noticed. What did you said we were subtracting 2 or going down by 2. Do you notice anything about that 2 popping up anywhere else? I'm going to go to Tobile, if I can maybe click on the unmute. Let's see, Tobile, what do you think? Where else?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
It's odd numbers.
There are odd numbers, absolutely. Did you notice this though? Did you notice that the number in front of the X is a -2? And you were also subtracting 2. That's something I want to point out for future questions, that relationship. Okay. Cool. Another example, don't worry. So let's move on from that, because you guys have done really well, and I think we need to do another example. So this one, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to give you time, and those students who maybe want to ask a question are welcome to, but I think most of us would benefit from just trying to do this one all by ourselves. Okay, go for it. So I want you to fill out, in this question, you're given a rule and you've given the inputs, and you have to work out the outputs. And then the other question that is, what do you notice about the outputs? But I'm most interested in the blocks to start with. So Nete Fatso, is that okay? Do you understand what you have to do? And then I'll give you some more feedback. So think about what I did last time. I think what I did was I started by using the rule a little bit. That might be helpful. Yeah, you can do it, guys. You can do it. I can see those brains working hard.
Woo, let's do this, guys.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So let's have a look. What's my first input? I think that's going to be. Yeah, so if you are feeling a bit stuck, don't be afraid to either type in the chat or raise your hand, or you can also direct message Yolanda, because she is there and she is wanting to help you for sure. Okay, so I see a few students are starting to get the first answer, and it looks to me like they end up with -11, and you are correct. The first input-output pair, the input is -3, the output is -11.
Thank you guys for following the rules. I see everybody's writing all their answers and then giving to us. Thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, so we don't want you to be too rushed. We want you to feel like you have time to think and then share your knowledge with us as you go. Now, for the second one, I'm just going to use my same working. So I get -8 plus 1 is -7. Now I am noticing something rather interesting, but I don't know. I need to do the next one before I'm certain about it. But I think I'm noticing a bit of a pattern here. The second one is probably -8. You're close to Zai, but I think the second one is it's -8, you're right. It's -8 when you times the two together, but then you must remember the formula has a +1 part. And if you go from -8 plus 1, you get -7. Okay, so I want to make a prediction about what the next one's going to be without working it out. And I think the next one is going to be -3, but I haven't worked it out. Okay, so I need to, do the working. Let's see what happens. So we put in -1. 4 times -1 is -4 plus 1. And that is going to give me -3, just as I predicted. Okay, would anybody like to give us the answers for the next 0 to 6 numbers? So I'm going to ask for hands to go up, and then we'll go from there. Anybody feel, Unati, I'd love to hear from you and see if you're willing to share your answers with us.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. My answer for the fourth one is 4 brackets are 0 plus 1 is 0.
Okay.
Plus 1 goes 1.
Yep. So basically what you've got, let me just change, my Zoom thing is stuck at the bottom there. So 4 times anything times 0 is nothing. And so you just have the +1, and that means that this is 1, which is perfect. Now, can you give me the next couple? And were you finding it easier to work out the next couple?
Yes, it was easier to work out the next couple.
So give me the next couple.
The number 2, which is the 6th one, is number 5. Is 5.
Wait, number 1 was 1 times 4. So do you mean like that one on the board is 5? So 1 goes with 5, huh?
Yes.
Okay, and the next one?
And the next one is, it's gonna be 8 plus 1 equals 9.
Perfect. The next one?
The next one, it'll be a 12 plus 1, which is 13.
Okay.
Then 4, no, not 4.
No, yeah. That's all good. 4 is right because we're here, huh?
It's gonna be 16 plus 1, which is 17.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anati. I really appreciate you contributing. So I'm just going to do the last little bit. Thank you, Anati. That was fantastic. So guys, what I'm going to point out to you now is that the next one is going to be 21 and the next one is going to be 25. Now, I'd love to know what I'm able to do that. I notice a bit of a pattern, and I was wondering, does anybody notice a shortcut or pattern that you can sometimes use in this input-output pair here? Ayanda, your hand is up, so I'll come to you.
Hello, sir.
Hello. What do you think? Do you have any shortcuts you can help us with?
So yes, sir. The shortcut that I found was the difference between all of these numbers is 4. So what I did was I multiplied my inputs with 4, and then I got my answer, and then I added 1.
Okay, so you were using the formula. Perfect.
Yes, sir.
So you noticed that you were using that rule, that formula. Perfect.
Yes, sir.
So what I want to point out, thank you so much, Ayanda, that's super useful. So what I want to point out is that you notice that in this pattern, it's going up by 4s. And so as long as it's not sneaky, as long as it doesn't go from 5 to 9, it felt like most of the time a shortcut was to just add 4 each time. And the reason I felt fairly confident is I saw this 4 again in front of the input. And it feels to me like the number in front of the input is causing this to go up by 4 each time. That 4, it's not a mistake or it's not a coincidence that 4 is there. It's actually that 4 is what's causing this to jump. Now, if I had to then go to the next term again and I went to 10, the problem is I've jumped 4 amounts on the input. The next number is not going to be 29. I can't use my shortcut. But can anybody tell me if the input was 10, could you put what would be in the output on the chat? I'd love to see if you guys get what I'm saying. Like the shortcut can be used some of the time, but we have to be careful if the number jumps up by more. And what would we get if we had an input of 10 on this question? So if there was a 10 going into our formula is kind of what I'm asking. Yeah. So if there was an input of 10 and the rule was y equals 4x plus 1. Okay, so basically if the input was 10 and I wanted to know what went with the input of 10, I would have to use the formula because 4 times 10 plus 1, that's the rule at the beginning. And so I couldn't use any shortcuts there. I had to use the formula. But if we're going up by 1 unit each time, the number in front of the x kind of gives us a bit of a shortcut with this. It's basically what I was trying to show you. And so that number in front of the x is important. Okay, let's do one more like this, I think. And then we will, let's do one last one like this. Or we can do more if we need to. So I've changed the rule again. So the rule, the input is x. And if, in fact, if I was drawing a flow diagram, the way this would, let me even relate it to what we were doing earlier. The first thing that gets done to x is it gets times by 3. The second thing that gets done is to take away 2. And so that's, and then it gives us a y value on the other side, the output. Right? That's the journey that the rule's saying. That's one way of writing it. But what I've been doing is I've been writing it in this form because it's easier to do the calculation that way. And so what I'm interested in...
Sorry, can we have it a little bit zoomed, just a little bit? Shanice cannot see. There we go. Thank you. I think now it's visible. Perfect. Now.
Yeah. So what I want you to do is I want you to fill in these missing values. And then I also want you to think about what do you notice about the outputs? And is my little shortcut, not shortcut, all the patterns that we've seen before happening again? Okay, over to you guys. Okay, what do you guys think? Kieran's asked, are there going to be classes during the exam? Yes, there will be, Kieran. We carry on their lessons every week. And sometimes even at the later grades, we've been doing a lesson on Saturday. So yes, we carry on doing lessons during exams. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I hope, guys, that it's starting to feel like this world of inputs and outputs and the numbers are starting to feel a bit more familiar. Because, yeah, like if we do enough examples, then our brains start to go, I've seen this before. I think I can, you know, I've got something to work with. Yeah. And if not, don't be afraid to raise your hand or send Yolanda a message, and we will do our best to help. Okay, I've got to be careful because it's a positive times a negative. And what's sneaky is I end up with a -9 minus 2, because a +3 times the -3 is -9. And now if we go back to the integers on the number line, like if you think of -9 on the number line and we take away 2, we're actually going to the left on the number line. And so we end up at -11. So the answer here for the first one is -11.
I'm sorry to ask, are grade 8 allowed calculators or not?
So they can, look, in this situation, I think that it's good for their brains to use mental maths. They are allowed to use calculators some of the time. Normally by in grade 8, some schools don't, they're not allowed to. By grade 9, most are allowed. But I think doing simple integer calculations is an important skill for later maths. And so that's why we play the Math 24 game at the beginning, just to keep building. and then the positive negatives. So for now, I prefer them to do it.
Perfect.
Cool. Shanice, I see your hand is up. I'm going to unmute you. Are you wanting to share some of your answers or ask a question?
So I wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question, sir.
Please go ahead.
So you see, sir, my network was really bad in the one before this one, sir. I wasn't able to do it, sir. Please, can you try to re-explain it for me?
So the good news is the thing that we're explaining now is exactly the same process. And so just listen carefully on this question and you'll learn exactly what you would learn if I scrolled up. Okay. So the process is exactly the same. And also there is a recording that will be available that if you really want to see that example again, it's there for you. Okay. Warona, maybe you can help us with the answer to the next one. I think I've unmuted you, or maybe it's a question. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask that how did you get the negative 11 if you multiplied negative 3 by 3 and then subtracted 2?
Okay. So think about, are you happy that 3 times minus 3 is minus 9? Are you happy with that part?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then the question becomes, we're at minus 9 on the number line. If I take away something on the number line, if I take away something, do I move to the left or do I move to the right? Or if I subtract, do I move to the left or do I move to the right?
You move to the left.
Yes. So you're happy that if I'm subtracting, I should be going in this direction. So then if I'm taking away 2, what is 2 units to the left? Well, 1 unit to the left would be minus 10. 2 units would be minus 11. Yeah. And that's how I got minus 11.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Rebetswe, let's go to you next.
Hi, sir.
How's it going?
I'm good, and you, sir?
Very good. Have you got some answers for us?
Sir, I want to...
Or ask a question.
I wanted to answer, like, give answers. So
Please,
for
go
negative
ahead. What's
2,
your answer? Minus 2?
my answer is negative 8.
Perfect. Yep. And the next one?
And then negative 5.
And the next one?
Negative 2.
Okay, now to ask you, you seem to be going quite quickly. Have you noticed something about the pattern? Or did you just calculate all those before you were online?
Yes, sir, I calculated before, but I see that
You calculated the
pattern is minusing by 2.
Well, you're not actually minusing by 2, actually. So, but thank you for that. There is, well, you are minusing by 2, but if you look at, Roberto, if you look at this, what's happening between minus 11 and minus 8, what is happening each time when you go to the next output pair? What seems to be happening? Do you want to just answer me there, Roberto, if you can? Otherwise, happy to move on. But just curious, do you notice anything about these output pairs? I think I've unmuted you. Yeah.
Sir, sir.
Not a problem, Roberto. Don't stress. I was just going to say, it looks like it's going up by 3.
Well done, Roberto, for trying. Well done.
Well done, Roberto. Well done. Okay, so I'm going to do the next ones. And what you notice is that for the next one, 3 times 1 minus 2, this is going to be 1. The next one after that, 3 times 2 minus 2, that's 6 minus 2, that's 4. And then 3 times 3 minus 2, that's 9 minus 2, that's 7. But what I have noticed, guys, is that, again, this number in front of the X seems to be guiding me to getting my answers. And I see a lot of students in the chat have got those answers too. And so when we answer the question, what do you notice about the outputs? To me, it looks like the outputs are going up in 3s and the number in front of the input variable, the multiplication, that's also a 3. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you are feeling okay. Give me a thumbs down if you're feeling a bit like lost. I want to take a little brain break now. And so, but I just want to get a quick feel for the class before I do that. Okay, fantastic. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to stand up away from your tables, and I am going to ask you to be a little silly with me. And what you're going to do is you're going to need a pen, and you're going to need to make sure that you are not close to anything so that you can actually not whack anything when you do this. So go grab a pen and come back to the table in a second.
Come on, guys, let's do this. Let's see. Everybody, let's stand up.
Okay. So what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to try and stand on one leg. Now, guys, you may think, am I just enjoying the fact that I can tell like 100 or so people to do this? But there actually is some method to this in that our brains have been working really hard. We need a chance to just unwind.
Yeah.
So I want you standing on one leg, and some of you may be feeling a little bit wobbly already. I'd love to see your cameras on so we can all be with each other together. If you can, just for a moment, pop your camera on, just so we can see.
Come on, guys.
I want you,
Nikona, thank you. Rida, I can see you. I can see you, Rida. Stand up.
I want you to take a pen, and I want you to try and stand on your leg, but I'm on my left leg and I'm right-footed, so your weaker leg, and I want you to try and balance the pen on your nose. And and stand on one leg.
We can do this, guys. Let's go.
Woo! Okay, I suppose I can, but it's actually quite hard even without a pen.
I really have an advantage when it comes to this nose thing.
I see some naturals in the house.
Always get it right, guys. Woo,
Well
Trevor,
done.
well done. I can see you there. Let's go, Lisady. I can see you.
Let's see what you can do. And then
Rida.
once you have returned to your, I'm sure some of you are feeling like, oh, I haven't done squats in a long time. But once you've returned, I'd love you to try and solve this little brain teaser for me. So today's brain teaser is about apples and pears and mushrooms. And if you are able to solve it, if you pop your answer in the chat, that would be awesome. And I know you guys love this. And so, oh, Mo, somebody fell. Be careful. Be careful. Okay, well, Warona, if you're in a car, I understand. You can't do that. That's it's just to get your body moving physically. And so I just know that it helps us learn. Okay, so some people are saying that the 7 is the answer for this. And I agree, because 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 28. But what I really want to know, guys, the real uncertainty in this question is, what is this bottom line? So what is an apple times a mushroom plus a pear minus a mushroom? That is really what I want to know. Okay, Irene thinks she's got it. Vukile has said that a pear is 3. Let me see if I agree with you. So a pear, yes, because 7 times 3 is 21. So I agree with that. So there's a pear. Now, what about a mushroom? Who can do the mushroom? 3 times something minus what gives me 17? Let me quickly close my door so that Sharon doesn't.
Guys, you're doing really well. You're doing well, guys. Let's go.
Quite near a fire station, and so every now and again the fire truck has to come past. Although I don't know if there's always fires because it's cold. So am I freezing? I'm not. Mushroom is 8. Okay. So 3 times, let's try this. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 minus 7 is 17. So I agree, the mushroom is 8. So what is my final answer going to be? So I agree, the mushroom is 8. So the final thing is going to be 7 times 8 plus 3 minus 8. And we actually need to know our BODMAS. And the BODMAS says this must get done first. So if the BODMAS says, or PEMDAS, whatever, I know my times tables, I should get 56 for this, plus 3, which is 50. I see a lot of you have beat me to the answer. Imtiaz, Unati, I think we're going to get the same answer. Let me just do the final bit of working. So I've done this, I've done this. And so guys, the magic answer of an apple times a mushroom plus a pear minus a mushroom is 51. I bet you didn't know that when you started today. All right. So well done to all of you who participated in that. And a lot of you got that right. Wow.
Woo! Yes.
Shout out to you guys.
Well done, guys.
Cool. All right. Let's just sneak in one more set of questions around this. So we're going to finish today. Well, we've got a little bit of time still, little 10 minutes. We're going to change things a little bit in this one. What we're going to try and do, and I'm going to do the first one with you, and then you are going to do the second one by yourself. Okay, so what is different? First of all, I want you to look at this. What is different to last time? What is missing that was... And you can put it in the chat, or you can... I want to know what is missing.
Can we please have it a little bit zoomed?
Yep, all good.
There we go. Thank you.
So the question is to fill in the missing blocks, but also to determine the rule for the pattern in order to fill out the last column. What's missing? The rule is missing. Yes, the rule is missing. Okay, but before we go looking for the rule, can we use something we learned last time to help us fill out the blocks here? I want you guys in the chat to fill out these missing blocks here. So what do you get?
Let's go, guys. We can do this. Remember, no rush. Take your time.
A lot of you said plus 3. And I'm taking that on board, which means if I plus 3 to this, I should get 18 for that. So the input-output pairs are here, but I notice the output pairs are going up in 3s. And so based on this rule, we can get that. Now, guys, here's where it gets a bit tricky. We have to try and figure out the formula. But what do we remember about the formula? The formula always seemed to be in this format, if I remember it correctly. I'll say plus, but it might be a negative, I don't know. It always seemed to have a number in front of the x, and then it always seemed to have a plus or minus like after it. So maybe I should even have like a block over here. What do you think the number in front of the x is going to be based on what we saw last time? Yeah, it felt like last time when it was going up in 3s, it always meant that there was a 3 in front here. Okay, but, and I think most of you get that. However, the problem is if I give an input of 1, if I use that rule, okay, so if I use that rule and I go 3 times 1, I get 3 as my output, and my output isn't 3, it's 6. So what do you think I'm going to need to do to balance the books? Exactly. I get y equals 3x plus 3. So the rule in this case is that this one is just going to be 3x plus 3, or sometimes we write it with the y attached to it. But because it's in the column, yeah. So you can just put 3x plus 3, but that's exactly it. Okay, so that's my example. And I think from what I've seen in the chat, that's done pretty well. And so I'm going to ask you guys, let me even bring this example down here. I'm going to ask you to try and do this one all by yourself to finish today, I think. So can you figure out what the missing blocks are? And then can you try and figure out the rule there? And then I think that will be it for today, I think, unless you are like, no, we must do one more, sir. We must. So over to you guys. See what you can do.
Let's go, guys.
Warona, I see you've raised your hand. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes. Are we going to attend joint exams?
Yes. There will be, it'll carry on going. Watobe goes through the holidays, exams, everything.
Okay, because of last week we had an assignment, and then the things that you taught us, the number patterns were there too. I would like to thank you for the teaching.
Pleasure. I'm so glad we could help. That's Rowena, we really appreciate your feedback. And yeah, thank you. I'm glad we could help. That's kind of why we're here. We're really trying to help students all over the country. And the fact that you can tell us, no, it really helped me in my assessment. That is music to my ears and to Yolanda's ears as well. So thank you.
It's so sweet, Warona. Thank you.
Cool. That's what we hope. I mean, we hope that we try to align ourselves as much with the curriculum, and hopefully, you know, if it's lined up perfectly with the school, it's hopefully very helpful. Okay, I'll watch the chat for a bit to see what is going on there.
I see they're giving the rules. You know, we're ready to like discuss this. I see it. Woo. You guys are awesome.
But
you're on fire.
First, we want to fill out the blocks that I have. We want to fill out the blocks. We'll get to the, I mean, they seem to be on fire in terms of, but I'm just going to go, so I don't make a silly mistake. I'm going to go like this, because it seems to me like the way I would describe it is we're going down by 2. That's what's happening if I look at, you know, that. Or another way of saying that is we are subtracting 2, or we're minusing 2 from each one. Now, because I've jumped from 6 to 10, I probably have to take away 2 like 4 more times. So like 7, 8, 9, 10. So we get minus 18 to get that. And then in order to make my rule, I know I'm going to have something like that. And so what I have there is I think I'm going to have because I'm going down by 2. But at the moment, that doesn't match. Okay, so if I put a 1 in here, 1 times minus 2 is minus 2. And that's not good. So if in the chat, what you guys are saying is that in order to get it to balance, what do I need to do? Plus 2. Yeah, plus 2. And so my final answer here, the output is going to be minus 2x plus 2. Okay, guys. So I just want to get a sense, if that makes sense to you and you feel comfortable with that, give us a thumbs up. And if you're still feeling a bit confused, give us a thumbs down. I just want to get a feel for the group. And then I also just want to do, just for our own references, I'm just going to do a quick poll because I just love a good poll. And I just want to get a sense of how you felt today, because we are going to end at that point. And so, yeah, if you could just pop it in the poll, that would be awesome. And yeah, because one of the differences is we don't have a physical classroom. And so it's important that we do ask you for your opinion on how things are going, so that we can kind of gauge our response. Okay.
So while we on that, Teacher Peter, someone asked here on the comments, how did we get the +2? So okay. I think if we can just
perfect. Let's go through that quickly, because I went a little bit quickly there. So what happens is we know that it's going down in 2s. That's why the minus 2 is here. But if I just stopped my fraction at that point, let's see what will happen. Let's say if I put the 1 in and I've got my formula and I say, look, I'm right, moving on. Well, what would happen is I would get that. And what's minus 2 times 1? It's minus 2. But the problem is minus 2 is not what we get in the table. The table ends up with an output of 0. And so we have to ask ourselves, what do we add to minus 2 to get it to 0? Like, how do we get it there? And I think what most students are saying is, look, I add, sorry, I don't add 0. I add 2. And that is the 2 that is going into the formula. Now, if we check our formula now, what we see is minus 2 times by 1 gives us minus 2. If we add 2, we get 0, which works well. Does it work for the second one? If I go minus 2 times 2 plus 2, what do I get? And I get minus 4 plus 2 equals minus 2. Happy days. That's what we should get. All right. So I hope that that makes a bit more sense for you guys. Cool, guys. I'm going to call this lesson to an end. If we could put the quiz link in the chat, Yolanda, if you've got that link. Oh, Linda, I'm so glad that you are finding this helpful.